Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. Today we're going to be talking about those who are looking to buy a bar in Thailand. Now, I'm going to be a little more informal in this video than I usually am because we're not specifically talking about specific legalese or points of the law here. But it's an issue that I've thought about a lot. I've had some friends and colleagues and clients basically comment on this channel and comment on the videos that we've been doing, and I sort of have tried to make these videos useful for people. That's one of my main concerns. But the issue of buying a bar in Thailand, although it seems a little bit strange, it's actually a fairly common question, shall we say, or a fairly common occurrence for foreigners that live over here in Thailand. Is a lot of guys, and they are mostly men, do tend to come over here with the idea of sort of retiring or semi-retiring, and a lot of guys' dream is to own a bar, and that's just something that folks seem to like to do. Let me be clear, I have clients that are in the F&B business. They own establishments that can only be described as a bar, although many of them serve food, and I would more describe them as sort of a restaurant or a bar and grill, if you will. But the specifics on this, this is supposed to be more sort of a things to watch out for if this is your goal. Most notably buying a bar as opposed to setting up one's own place. Buying a bar tends to be the more preferred option with respect to coming to Thailand and owning a bar. I don't know specifically why this is. I think mostly because folks sort of see some place that they know and they like, or they've come here and they've been to a place and they just like it and they decide that they would like to own it. Some things to be wary of. Not all bar owners, this does not apply to all bar owners, let me be clear, but there are unfortunately folks that will do some, let's say, less than savory things in the course of transacting business where one's trying to buy a bar off of another individual. Most notably, things like selling a company they don't own. This is where due diligence especially comes in. I've had not a few clients over the years who will come in after a dispute has arisen with respect to ownership, or they've bought into an ownership position, or they've tried to buy the whole bar, and they come to find out they don't own anything because they didn't actually buy shares, and those shares in that company were not duly registered. Yes, they'll have contracts. Yes, they may even have leases and things like this, but the legal formalities were not met. This can result in serious problems. Concomitant with that, sort of connected to that issue, is oftentimes you will see individuals who will say, oh, I'm selling you an interest in this bar, and they don't own legally an interest in the bar in question, or the establishment in question, I should say. There's a company that has a lease, a duly formally conducted lease between a landlord, or sometimes a company may own a place. And when you go and search the shareholder list and the directors list and check out all of the formalities associated with the company, the individual claiming to be selling it doesn't actually own it. In some cases, this is not occurring out of a nefarious sort of plot within this individual's head. Usually where we see this pop up as a problem is where the individual purportedly selling the establishment is married to the woman that actually on paper owns everything. And perhaps those two individuals, the husband and wife, may not be on the same page with respect to selling the place. And so if one does not conduct one's due diligence effectively, one can be put into a position where they buy something that can't be bought, essentially. And once the money's changed hands, especially if cash is involved, it's going to be pretty difficult to get it back. And litigation is not cheap, and litigation, moreover, is not particularly fast or swift in Thailand. It simply isn't. The wheels of justice oftentimes can turn relatively slowly. So for that reason, due diligence is a very good idea. Due diligence with accounting is another important aspect of due diligence, and I want to speak specifically to accounting here. Taking a look at the books and seeing what the company is making, and moreover, in some instances, ascertaining the vendor relationship of the bar with those that sell the bar products that are then sold on to the customers. Things like, for example, alcohol and food, most notably food and beverage. The vendor relationships and a good audit, a good due diligence of the underlying accounting can give an individual looking to buy an establishment a really good idea as to where the books sit, for lack of a better term. How much money is the place making? Where are they spending it, and on what? Moreover, there's an aspect when we do this kind of due diligence with respect to accounting. My accountants and I do work with a large number of accountants here in Thailand. When we're dealing with these books, when we're dealing with this kind of due diligence, there's also kind of a forensic accounting aspect to this, where it's sort of like, well, maybe I should say it's looking into perhaps what's not being reported and trying to ascertain the real scope of the business and the real level of the business, how much money is really being made. This is more of a speculative exercise, but good professionals, accounting and legal professionals, can oftentimes at least provide some insight into what's going on with this stuff. So again, I guess in closing to this video, I would say the biggest thing to think about before buying into a bar, and specifically buying into a bar or buying into an establishment, is do your due diligence. Learn what's going on within the company. Learn who's who within the sort of, maybe not necessarily even on paper, but good due diligence can also provide some insight into where individuals stand sort of unofficially with respect to the establishment. And that can provide some seriously needed insight that, in my experience, individuals have told me, boy, I wish I had done that, and spent a little bit of money, very minuscule amount of money, oftentimes compared to the amount that's invested in such establishments. But I've actually had people tell me on many different occasions, boy, I wish I would have done that in the first place and ascertained what I was getting myself into before I ever invested in the first place. Doing so can save one a lot of headache and a lot of resources and a lot of time being misspent.